Final phone call of the day. You're calling from an 808 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Oh, shit, I get the last call of the day. What's up, Michael? This is James from Riverside, in California.
What's up, homie? How you doing?
What's up, brother, man? Always good to talk to you. Hey, so I was wondering, why is there, I'm sure you could articulate it really well for me, and maybe the answer is like, I don't know, really generic or whatever, but I was wondering why people don't work. Like, for me, I thought about, like, joining the Libertarian Party, thought about Green Party, thought about all this other stuff, but
Sure.
I just like the Dems. I think they have, you know, like, for example, here in California, the CDP offers a large amount of support for its Democratic constituents and its candidates and things like that. So when we get into a race and we show basically Sacramento that we mean business, they're like, okay, wow, this person is a serious candidate. Like the campaign I work on, we're the largest and most successful in the state, and we might actually switch this district seat to blue. And I think working inside the party to reform it is a lot better than just like starting from scratch and like having these like asinine sort of ideas, like, and playing Beach Boys to should be the way it is. Yeah, in a perfect world, you know, everything, nobody would need money, fucking robots and shit. It's like, no, man, you got to get in there. You got to deal with the grime. You got to get your hands dirty a little bit, and you really just have to. You just got to kick ass, honestly. You got to look at policies that help people. I mean, the candidate that I was working for, when she wasn't even like running for political campaign, she had worked with local leaders, doctors, businessmen, etc., brought them to the table and said, how can we fund this new medical center at UC Riverside?
Right.
And she just took hours and hours of dealing with these people and just coming to a compromise. And she worked with a fellow assembly member and Senator Roth here in California and got that shit hammered out. She found $15 million in the general fund that we could use for the medical center, then established a program where if those medical students complete their med school and establish residency in the area for 5 years, we forgive their tuition because we have a doctor shortage and healthcare professional shortage. So it created an incentive. So I like things like that. I like when the party moves, we have the good ideas, we're just really fucking steamrolling ahead, and I'd just like to hear your thoughts off the air. All right, Michael?
Yeah, thanks
and
a lot,
hit
man.
me with that view horn, brother. Have a good one.
Thanks for the call, man. You know, I think like some people are just really attached specifically to the idea that there's something magical about third parties. You know, one of the things that, and first of all, if we lived in a Euro type system, I would probably be involved in creating something like Podemos or Syriza or, you know, the Green Party in the 80s. But what's fascinating is that even if you go to those contexts, first of all, what gives always takes. So there's more room for actual leftism, but there's also like straight up neo-fascist parties that, you know, sometimes even make it into government in Europe as well. So that's the full spectrum. But the other thing is that, again, and this is the way in which I feel like I'm always trying to sort of be both more radical and less radical in some ways than some people, because like, if you look, you know, Syriza is the most extreme example of this. Syriza came into power in Greece, and they've completely capitulated to the Eurozone demands. Now, you know, if you read Varoufakis, he thinks it's really just a political cowardice and failure. You know, and then other people would probably argue that they really have no choice. But the reality is that from the perspective of the long-term left in Greece, having an actual insurgent left party implement that program is probably infinitely more demoralizing than having a traditional social democratic party or certainly a center-right party implement this vicious, cruel austerity. Now, you know, so it's like, for me, it's like the answer in Greece, it might be more radical than anything that is available through electoral politics. And I think Greece might really need to leave the Eurozone. And I think that there needs to be really, really radical organizing outside of those parameters. You look at the Green Party in Germany. That's one of the most successful Green parties in the world, and it's had real benefits. I mean, there's a reason why Germany relatively speaking, has an incredibly green and renewable economy. A big part of that is because of the success of the Green Party. But going back to the 80s, there was a conflict between the Realos and the Fundies, as they were called. And by the late 90s, you had a Green Party in coalition with the Social Democrats, with Joschka Fischer as foreign minister, former, actual 60s radical, not like we say here, but like a guy who, there's photos of him beating up a riot cop at a demonstration. He led Germany along with Schroeder into bombing Kosovo, which was I think the first sort of military engagement under the auspices of NATO, obviously, that Germany had engaged in, offensively since World War II. In a party whose platform had been a complete commitment to total disarmament and pacifism. So again, we can agree or disagree about the record of someone like Joschka Fischer, but the point is that when you're in politics, even if you start with radical origins, you get into some type of system. And getting into the system can have incredible benefits because that's how new ideas are injected. And I mean, I want Podemos to succeed in Spain. I want, at the very least, Syriza to have new leadership and maybe at least an actual attempt to liberate itself from austerity. But there's nothing magical about third parties. When you're in the system, you're in the system. And in America, it can be magical because they're totally irrelevant unless you're doing it in a very specific and local level, like the Progressive Party in Vermont. And there might be opportunities in specific cities and states to create that kind of model. But I think just as effective, take over your local Democratic Party. I don't think there's anything magic in the...
Hey, it's Sam Seder. Why don't you subscribe to this channel? You can do so right over here. Over. Subscribe.